Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Britt announces new chief of staff. Also, will the legislatures ever let the people vote on gaming? And they're defunding libraries. What's next?
We must burn the books, Montag. All the books.
S'mores, anyone? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Sorry, somebody was texting me war plans. Go ahead.
Oh, well,
They weren't war plans. There weren't details in them.
there's no details.
No.
No, I'm sorry. Well, it looked like war plans. Maybe I think of them differently.
Well. Who, you dating Jonathan Goldberg now?
Oops. Oopsie. My bad.
The legislature has been out on their second vacation this week, and God bless them. I'm glad they're on vacation.
At least our reporters get a little bit of a breathing space here for a few days.
But politics goes on, and politics never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But I remembered a book that I read many, many years ago, and it's called The Dual State, and it was by a German legal scholar, Ernst Finkel. And in it, he talks about when there's a takeover of a government, especially a democracy, it doesn't happen immediately. It happens over a series of years, and it starts slowly and it builds. He talks about in the book the normative state and the pejorative state. The normative state is one where business and commerce continues. There's law and order, contracts are signed and honored. But right beside that is the pejorative state, where they are lawless. They fuel propaganda machines. They punish people. And that weaves itself into the normative state until the point where the pejorative state takes over. And we see that in the United States, and some people say we've seen it before, but we're seeing it escalate now, even on a state level, where they're banning books, they're telling transgender kids that they don't exist, they're demonizing LGBTQ communities, and they are, like if a judge disagrees with what they do, they're threatening to impeach, or they name call and threaten them. And that is the creeping demise of democracy, when you have the pejorative state taking over and basically scaring the hell out of everybody, Susan.
Yeah, well, it's the old concept of divide and conquer, because what they're doing is they're causing all this divisiveness among people, whether LGBTQ, whether you're Black, whether you're migrant, any of these things. They're causing all this hatred and division out there. Meanwhile, in the background, they're doing whatever they want so nobody notices. I mean, this goes on in politics, even at the most normal states. They wanted to get everybody's attention over here. Look at the shiny ball over here. Meanwhile, they're in the background over here doing things they don't want you to see, which is exactly but it's exacerbated right now.
I mean, Josh, this goes all the way to disenfranchising voters, gerrymandering. All this stuff is about control, when government is not supposed to be about control. It's supposed to be about keeping civic order, law and order, and then doing what's best for its citizens. But these people use words like family values, traditional values, Alabama values to attack and to separate, not to include.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, it's a tactic by people who don't understand how to govern properly and how to address issues and things that are very important to the average Alabamian and average American, for that matter. And also there are a handful of folks out there who are looking to achieve an agenda. And they need to, in order to achieve that agenda, they need to distract. I mean, I wrote about this in a column for Thursday, which is, to say there are a number of kitchen table issues that most everybody has at their house right now. Every working person has the same basic set of issues. They're a little bit different. They're nuanced, of course. Not everybody's is exactly the same, but overall, they're basically the same. It's about paying the bills, where your kid's going to school, what the future looks like, security, all that sort of stuff. And there are people out there, there are politicians. And let's be honest, right now in Alabama, those are the Democrats in Alabama. And listen, if you doubt that, go and check the bills, go and check the legislation, okay, that are out there addressing those issues. And on the other side of that, you have people who have a certain agenda and a certain goal. And let's just talk about the grocery tax for a second. Democrats started in the 90s, the damn 90s, y'all. Pearl Jam was on the radio when we started talking about getting rid of the grocery tax. And now all of a sudden it's like they've swam down and discovered the Titanic or something at the bottom, and we're going to chop it off one penny at a time. Here's your penny. Here's another penny for you. Here's another penny. In the meantime, they've cut the top marginal tax rate. Nobody says a word about that, hey, last year we cut the top marginal tax rate for Alabama's highest earners. We did that. Nobody said a word. Nobody worried about whether it was too much on the education trust fund budget. None of that. We didn't have a qualm. We gave out $100 million now and $500 million a year out of the education trust fund for rich people to keep sending their kids to private school. Nobody said a word, but we're going to give you that penny. We're going to give you that penny. Finally, after 40 years of the Democrats talking about it, the Republicans are going to give you the penny. And that's the goal, is to distract people from whether they're picking your pocket every single day out of the working plate, and they're going to repeal your overtime tax because that's too much money for working folks to take home.
Well, if I've talked to several Republicans who are backing the overtime tax because they don't want to lose their seat. But I want to move on to one other thing real quick before we go, because we only got about half a minute left. Half an hour. That's all the time we got. We just used up half of that.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's this. You wrote about this in a column, Josh, where this woman out in Idaho, was it?
Yes, Idaho.
She had a sign in her classroom that said everyone is welcome. And they went in and told her that she couldn't have that sign anymore. She needed to take it down. And she said, "Oh, no, I'm not taking it down." And that's gone viral, and thousands of T-shirts and people are supporting it. And like I said, we only got about half a minute here, so I'm just going to kind of wrap this up a little bit. But when did it become in the United States that everyone is not welcome? I mean, I remember growing up in a time when we thought everybody was included. When we had games, we played baseball or football or whatever, everyone was welcome. Now, you might not get picked every time for the team to play, but no one said, "You're not welcome." Here, I believe, in the United States of America, everyone should be welcome. As I've often say, go ahead, Susan.
And the Statue of Liberty is weeping.
The Statue of Liberty is weeping. I think we have to have a government that cares about people for society to thrive and prosper. But we'll leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. I know this week is going to sound to some people like some kind of liberal agenda. It is not. It is a humanistic agenda, and it's an agenda that's inclusive, meaning that in America we have lots of different folks, and I don't think that there's anything conservative about telling people how they live their lives and what they should read and what they can read and what is available to them in the public domain. I just don't, that was not, I've voted Republican before. I mean, and I just think that some of this stuff is just outrageous. It has gone so far that the state library board, the Alabama Public Library Service Board, which is headed by John Wahl, who is the head of the Alabama Republican Party, where they're defunding libraries that don't take books out of the public library. And they did this in Fairhope. They threatened Fairhope with defunding them for about $40,000, excuse me. Pollen is getting everywhere. And, Fairhope said, hey, we got about 3 books or 4 books that you don't approve of, but we think they're good books. They're books on how a young woman was trafficked. They're books on how a young woman was sexualized. They're books that one woman in the meeting said, I wish I had been able to read this as a young woman because then this wouldn't have happened to me. And John Wahl keeps saying they're sexually explicit, but will not define what sexually explicit means. He just thinks you're supposed to know what it is.
Well, I could say a lot about John Wall on that subject, but I won't because this is Sunday morning television. But yes, I mean, these are, educational books, for maybe someone who sees, some girl who reads this book and sees her friend is actually going through sexual abuse or something. So that children actually learn because there are predators at all ages. Yeah. And these are things that children need to know. They're not sexually explicit books. They're books for learning warning signs of these things. But you know what? You know what the good news is? Is the good people of Fairhope, they raised the money.
Yeah, they
raised the money and said, to heck with y'all.
But Josh, we don't teach sex ed in the state. We have totally out of control teen birth. It's down from where it used to be. But we don't teach about sex. We don't teach about real grooming, not this false grooming, but how young women and even boys are taken in by predators. But they want to punish public libraries for doing what libraries have been doing for hundreds of years in the state.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, it's a building with books in it. That's all a library is supposed to be. You're supposed to go in, if you're a parent and you don't want your kid to read certain books, go into the library with them and don't let them get the books.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the library is now expected to be the parent to these kids. These books are not porn. These books don't have explicit photos of intercourse and things like that. And these are books that are describing real life situations that happen. And let me tell you, there's been testimony before Congress and in courts in which these books have helped save the lives of kids and have helped save kids from these situations. And adults have testified to what they went through and how they wish they had known that they had this resource out here available to them to read about these things and learn about it, because you're right. It's not being taught. The sex education is not being taught in the state that has one of the highest rates of teen pregnancies, one of the highest rates of STDs in the nation. it's atrocious what we're trying to do with this stuff. And it's honestly, I mean, these people, man, with their nonsense. I tell you what they're worried about exposing is the fact that every week now, it seems, we've got another preacher from some church that's getting caught and busted sexualizing children and being a sex predator out there. All right. I mean, there was 3 this past week. 3. All right. That's as many books as they're trying to ban in that library.
Well, it's like this. It's instead of teaching children, the dangers, we're trying to protect them from sex. I mean, we're talking about, kids don't really know if they're being sexually abused. They think this is normal. They don't know that everybody doesn't go through this or trafficking or whatever. And instead of trying to protect them from sexual predators and from trafficking, we're trying to protect them from the books that educate them about it.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is another part of the divide. Mm-hmm. This divides off. Listen, you know who is not going to be denied access to those books? People that have money, because their kids will have access. People that are educated, people that are college educated, raising their kids will have access to this.
Of course.
It is more like the kids that don't have the money, their parents aren't that educated. But now in Fairhope, to be honest, that's a wealthy community.
It is a wealthy community.
It's a great library down there. And the people of Fairhope, which is fairly conservative, I mean, it's a district, but they just said, no, this is a bridge too far. I do want to talk about John Wahl real quick, because John Wahl has been the champion of leading this idea of porn in schools and DEI and all this other stuff. He's been the leader of this. Mm-hmm. John Wahl, the head of the Alabama Republican Party. Susan, you're a research guru, as I say every week. Can you find the name John Wahl, this man, prior to 2010?
No, he doesn't exist.
He doesn't exist.
It's a ghost. He's absolutely a ghost. He doesn't exist. And we all know that John is not his name, of course. But yeah, it's like a completely made up person that has no background at all, has no records whatsoever that he ever existed.
But that's just public records. But we know he exists.
We know he exists.
We know
course,
where his family lives. They live on a compound outside of in Limestone County. Mm-hmm. Josh, but as Kyle Whitmire reported a long time ago, and you reported too, he's voted at least in one election with a fake ID, and yet Steve Marshall did nothing about it.
Yeah, no, it's Kyle did a great job with the stories at AL.com and kind of dug this up. He got a guy fired. He got a poll worker fired for refusing to allow him to vote with this ID that he and Jim Ziegler cooked up together. And when Ziegler was the auditor over there, and it was made to look like a state ID card, basically, and it was completely phony and fictitious. And they at that time, John Merrill was the Secretary of State, and he reported this to the AG's office as voter fraud. And Kyle confirmed that with them. And then later, Wes Allen, the new Secretary of State, followed up on it and said, "Hey, this is still outstanding out there." And to date, nobody has done anything about it. I mean, it's the sanctimonious stuff with this. In that meeting in which they fired the APLS chair lady, the president, and then also cut the funding for this. Wahl went on record and said something along the lines of, these agencies, you must follow the law. If you're not going to do this, you must follow the law. Well, I mean, all right, well, practice what you preach, brother.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where we are, but we're going to have to leave it right there. Practice what you preach or preach what you practice. They don't do either. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles.
and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Josh, Susan, I don't know. I can't even remember how long we've been saying, let the people vote on gaming, on a lottery, on table games, on bingo, on sports betting. We've been saying it and saying it and saying it. Governor Ivey has supported it. Speaker Ledbetter has supported it. Before he was Senate President Pro Tem, Garland Gudger supported it. We have the support. This past week, Steve Flowers wrote another column and saying that, once again, let the people vote. So that's at least 1,563,000 times somebody in Alabama has said, let the people vote, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've reached the point of absurdity really with this, and I think the most absurd portion of it is probably the fact that we continue to talk about it as though it doesn't exist here.
Right.
Gambling, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I get lost a lot of time with people is, we say, well, we don't want gambling here. Buddy, you're in a bad shape then.
Yeah.
You better move.
Yeah.
Because we got more gambling than Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida combined, probably. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over the place. It's illegal. We're not reaping any benefits from it. We have all the same problems that people preach about that come along with gambling, the problem gamblers and everything else. But we have none of the revenue to address any of the problems. We have none of the regulations that would come in and protect people from some of the more nefarious operations that are out there acting and robbing people blind. And so we just continue to do this year after year after year. And at some point, you need to ask yourself exactly why this is. And I mean, I know why it is. It's twofold, I believe. First of all, there's a whole industry built on the fact of almost getting this thing to the finish line, but not quite. Not quite. A lot of consultants and attorneys get almost to the finish line, but not quite. And there's also a lot of lawmakers out there who are making a whole lot of money off the illegal operations, we should say. And they don't want to lose that cash flow either.
Susan, it's the same old politics. The consultants, the lobbyists, the lawyers all run this thing up to the 10-yard line, and they say, "Oh man, we'll get them next year. We'll get them next year."
They ran it up to one vote last session.
Yeah.
One vote stopped it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how close they got them last time.
One vote, because there's millions of dollars in not letting it pass.
Exactly.
For individuals and groups. And then you have people like Alpha, Farmers Federation. You have people like the Alabama Policy Institute that, they claim that it's to keep Alabama pure and to keep us safe and to keep us wholesome. Meanwhile, you could gamble about at any convenience store in the state or back room of a whatever.
Yeah, and the law as it stands right now is it's a misdemeanor. Yeah. So if a convenience store or a beauty box or whatever gets caught doing it, it's a misdemeanor. Yeah. They pay a fine. They go back to what they were doing.
And they act
and a good gambling law would address those things and actually get that stopped.
And we've got the Porch Band of Creek Indians operate 3 successful casinos now they just have bingo. Then the McGregor family operates a successful legal historical horse racing. But you know what? The people of Alabama want to vote. And it really comes down to, it's almost immoral that the legislature would hold the people of Alabama hostage like this.
Talk about voter suppression.
It's immoral. The immoral part is seeing this scourge of illegal gambling and what it's doing out there. And I've written about a number of different instances of actual criminal activity taking place that's been stopped in other states by regulations and gaming boards in those states and discovered. I mean, there's a whole college point shaping scandal taking place right now out there that's still unfolding. And it was caught because of the legalized sports betting groups out there, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the Hard Rocks, all those folks caught this with their algorithms that they run because they have to be public. All of that is caught, and the people track these things. And when you don't have that, it opens you up for so much more corruption and things. And people in Alabama are getting robbed every day because we don't have those protections. And these lawmakers know it. I mean, ask some of these folks who have backed these regulations, like Nathaniel Ledbetter and Andy Witt and some of those folks. They'll tell you they've talked to these people and they know it. And to sit on your hands is immoral while people are suffering.
Yeah, I mean, and look. These people and Andy Witt, Representative Andy Witt, has done his homework. There's a whole commission that the governor oversaw that said, yes, this is what the people want, and this is how we can do it.
But library books are more important, Bill.
Well, yeah, banning library books.
That's more important.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, right now, the United States government is about ready to withhold $800 million from Medicaid in Alabama.
Yeah.
Talk about a fiasco and a lack of money. It's hitting, baby. But I want to go on to one really great piece of news.
Good news.
This past week, U.S. Senator Katie Britt from Alabama, our own Katie Britt, appointed Sean Ross to be her chief of staff. Sean, we've known Sean since he was a young man.
Yes, we have.
He's still a young man. But
Well, he is,
done phenomenal. I remember him riding around with Angie Horn, and he was just new to the game.
Yep.
And now here working for our senator.
Well deserved. He worked his fanny off during her election. Good God, that boy worked so hard. And we're so proud of him.
Yes,
so
very
proud of him.
Josh, Sean's one of the good guys, right?
Yeah. Sean's a good guy. I hope that this is a move, and now they'll start addressing some of the problems that I care about. I think we obviously see things a little different in terms of politics on a lot of levels. But listen, that you can disagree without being disagreeable. I like Katie Britt. I like Sean. And I think that they're the best we have in the Senate currently.
All right.
I agree.
All right, we got to leave right there. Sean, we're so proud of you. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.